In this video, we will be showing you how to use Alumio to use pagination to query over a dataset. An example when you want to use pagination is when you want to synchronize all the data that has been updated, such as products, customers, prices, or stock, but for performance reasons, you cannot request all updates at once. You need to apply pagination to query over subsets of the entire dataset. Another example is that when you're pulling orders from an e-commerce system every 5 minutes, you want to make sure that you're getting new results. Orders that have already been processed should not be part of the subset. In this video, we'll be using the last example. We have created a configuration that pulls orders from an e-commerce system. In this case, it's Magento 2. And by default, we are only pulling one order every time we request it from Magento. So now when I run it once, and I go to the task overview, we can see we have one new task. The entity identifier of this task is 193. Now when I run it again, we are getting the same order again. So you get the concept. Every time I'm running this incoming configuration, I'm pulling the same order over and over again. I'm not going over the other orders that also have been placed. To eliminate this problem, we need to apply pagination. In this case, we are going to use some out-of-the-box functionality that Alumio has to offer in order to go over the full list of orders. Step 1 to apply this is to set up the filters that we want to pass with the request. In this case, I've already went ahead and prepared the filters that are needed. But yeah, this is really specific to the system you're going to connect to. So check the documentation of the system you need to apply pagination for. And yeah, use what you will learn in this video. First, we can see I'm going to apply a sort order on the request set. So we are going to sort it on the updated add field. So we want to get the oldest order first and the latest order last. Then we are going to apply filter groups. So in this case, I'm applying a filter on the updated add field, and I'm going to get a dynamic value which contains the date, and I will check that the orders that I'm going to request are newer than the date I'm going to pass with this request. The next step is to check if the date does not equal the dynamic date, because obviously we already have processed orders on or before this dynamic date. And we are going to check if the entities we're going to pull do not match the entity IDs we already have processed. The next step is to use the input transformer. The input transformer allows us to construct dynamic values that we can pass with the request. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the chain transformer because I need to apply two transformations. The first transformer I need to apply is the load identity tracker from storage. This one uses a tracker storage, which is used to store the progress. So for this purpose, I've already pre-created this storage. So in this case, I selected the file storage, but it can also be a directory storage. Now I can go ahead and select the storage here. Then I have to define a path to the date. Well, for this time, I will use the custom path named mutation date, and I will leave the rest as is. The next step I need to do, I need to transform this list of identities to a comma-separated string. This is really specific to Magento. It could be that for your system it is not required, so please make sure to check the documentation. So I'm going to use a value mapper. I'm going to use the key accessor. I'm going to add the key and define this tracker state identities key, which is the value that's stored in the storage. And I'm going to use the implode to string mapper to transform the array to a string of identities. I will go ahead and scroll down. What we now need to do, we need to apply a second transformer. So the first input transformer is responsible for constructing the request. So it's going to pull data from a storage to get parameters that we want to send with the request. So we are going to send a request to Magento that's filtered. So we only want to retrieve orders from a certain date. Then the next step is to write the newest orders back to the storage so that for the subsequent requests, we can request this data from the storage again. So we're going to add a transformer. It should be a data transformer in which we can define another transformer for which we will use the save identity tracker into storage transformer. Then here we have to apply the same tracker storage as we did in the input transformer. We have to define the date on the entity we are getting from the request. So in this case, it will be the updated add field. Then we have to define which field holds the identity of the entities we are going to process. Well, in this case, it's the entity ID. And we can leave the date format as is. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this configuration and run it again. and check the task overview, we can see we now have a new task. The entity identifier is 230. Now when I run it again, we can see we get a new task, 271. So I will do it once more. And we have another new task, which is 261. So what it's now doing, it's going to filter the request. It's going to sort the request based on the updated ad. It will first return the oldest order, so the order that was placed first. And as last, it will have the newest order, so the order that was placed as last. What it will then do, it will take a subset of this data. In this case, we are pulling one order at a time. And then it's going to write the updated ad timestamp of that order to the storage. So when we take a look at the storage and go to the entities and refresh this, we can see we have a date and we have identities. When we check the date in the storage, we can see the date of the last order we have processed. In this case, it's the 25th of January at 4:30. So the next time we are doing a request, we are going to ask for orders that were placed after this timestamp, because obviously all orders before this timestamp have already been processed. We are also storing the identity of the latest order we have processed, so we are not getting this twice. So again, in this example, we are connecting to Magento, but you can apply this principle to basically any system you're going to connect to. You don't necessarily have to use these plug-and-play transformers I've used. You can also build your own. So yeah, good luck with applying pagination within your integrations.